Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate SNS. I hope you've been having a great evening. So I was waiting to get some more reports on this stuff that's happening with Russia and Poland right now. And from what we've been reading so far, what's been coming out in reports is indeed Poland has been hit by two missiles and people have died. It was right at the Ukraine-Poland border. So here's the way I see this going down. So Poland has come in and said they're going to be enacting Article 4 of the NATO treaty. So what does that mean? What that means is they're calling in not just their state heads, but also the ally state heads. They're calling them in. They're going to have a meeting, and they're going to discuss what exactly happened. They're going to open an international investigation to, one, confirm that these missiles were indeed built by Russia, and then confirm the trajectory in which they came from. So when you have all these satellites and stuff, they're going to be able to tell exactly where it came from. And based off of that type of imagery and information and data, they will be able to determine what the actual intended target was. So if the intended target was actually to hit Poland, which it wouldn't surprise me if that's what it was, or if it was just some sort of a misfire guidance system or something like that, and it was intended for the Ukrainian border, but some of it crossed over into Poland, that's going to have a big play in what happens next, the decisions that are made next. So understand, if you have Russia, they attack a NATO ally, they will be a response, and that response would basically be World War III. Now, a lot of people are like jumping up right now saying, okay, so this is what's happening, this is where we're headed to World War III because they intentionally hit them. There has been no release yet. Okay, the investigation has not happened yet, so it's important to slow your roll down a little bit. Grab the horse by the rein, pull them back just a hair, and wait for the investigation to come in. Now, what I expect is one of two outcomes, and honestly, the first outcome I expect is that they're just going to whitewash it, try to whitewash it here with the administration that we have in our office, and they're going to say, well, it wasn't really intentional. It was just one of the things, it kind of went out of control. Then you have other people that are jumping up, okay, well, this is a false flag event, meaning it didn't really happen, or it was an event that happened, but we're the ones who done it, so we can kick off World War III. When you look at Joe Biden, do you really think this guy wants to wage any kind of a war? I mean, he pulled out of Afghanistan and all so fast. It was the sloppiest pullout in the history of modern warfare that it's still joked about and made fun of on late night comedy channels today. People need to understand he's not equipped to be waging any kind of a war, making decisions that could lead into that type of situation, nor does he want it. And the reason I say he doesn't want it is because he's getting his percentages from the Russian fuel that he's buying for the country since he crippled the domestic production of fuel. He's also getting percentages of all the money that they funnel into the Ukraine. So all that money that goes in, he gets his 10%. And the military aid stuff that they're paying money for, which is the munitions and the tanks and different stuff like that, he's getting a 10% off that cut too. So he's not going to hurt his own pocketbook, is the way I look at it. Now, there could be the second outcome that they come in and they say, you know what, yes, this was intentional. It was Russian-made missiles, which is what it's really sounding like, because understand, I have investigators on the scene right now. So it's been confirmed that yes, it's two Russian-made missiles. Now, what they're saying is it from Russia, or is it from a kind of like a splintered cell group of extremists over there that was just launching over at the Ukrainian border? It just happened to hit into Poland. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens with that. But that's what's happening. That's where they've gotten to at this point right now. Now, when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of the situation stuff, there's money to be made more. I know they call Republicans the war hawks and things like that, but understand most of these wars and stuff like that have been waging on, Democrats had the opportunities to put a stop to that as well, but there's a lot of money to be made in it. But when you have a president that's up there getting his 10% from all these affected countries, I don't expect to see something major happen unless it gets to where the money that would come into his pocket outweighs what he's currently getting. So now, a lot of people out there right now, and this probably won't make it very far on YouTube, and the reason for that is anytime you start mentioning anything about that Biden laptop and all that kind of stuff, the laptop from hell that they said did not exist, but indeed does exist, because now, hey, guess what? The information's coming out that, yeah, he's the big guy getting his 10% and things like that. It's making a lot more sense about why he's making these decisions that he's making, guys. People need to understand that, there's money to be made, and a politician is about one thing and one thing only, and that is money in their pocket. It's not about putting money in your pocket. It's not about taking care of the constituents. The only time you hear from them is when they want your vote. But people need to wake up to that situation. And that's on both sides of the aisles, guys. When it comes to our midterm results stuff, sounds like we're sitting pretty good. I know we're still waiting on some stuff to come in from Alaska and all, but it's really looking like the Republicans, for the first time in a long time, will have control over Congress. So hey, that's good on one note. But on the other note, we did lose a seat to the Democrats in the Senate race. So that's really putting the balance power in their hands. And even if we end up with a situation where we end up with a tie, okay, so this is what people need to understand. If you have 50 seats here and the 50 over here, who's going to cast that tiebreaker vote? Well, you're going to have Kamala Harris, the vice president, breaking that tiebreaker vote. So you know it's going to always swing the Democrat way. Why is that important for you? Well, if you remember back when they were doing this student loan forgiveness thing up to $20,000 and all that, and then they're like, oh, the Senate blocked that. Well, understand Manchin was the one who was casting that kind of a deciding vote there at one time. So they want to make sure that this guy can't screw their stuff up anymore. So that's kind of where we're seeing that, what we're seeing when it comes to these mail-in ballots again. But one of the things you need to be aware of is that when he signs those executive orders and things like that, they can be halted down and slowed down and crushed and stuff in the Senate in the past. It's not going to be happening now. But also we have our Supreme Court of America. So something you need to keep in mind when these different types of things that he's going to be signing here in the future, in the next 2 years, we're going to see that really ramp up. I'm expecting, excessive gun control stuff and things like that. Understand that is going to make its way into the Supreme Court where it historically has been called unconstitutional and it's been struck down. But it can take a year to 2 years for that stuff to come through sometimes. So if they come out and they pass something, don't jump up and go, oh man, okay, well I got to follow suit what they're saying. No, just remain calm, keep a cool head, wait for Supreme Court to make a decision on it. Because just because it's signed on an executive order doesn't mean it's going to hold up, guys. You need to keep that in mind. Now, what I expect to start seeing here in the next few years, if we do indeed get control of Congress, is we're going to start seeing a influx of new laws and things like that that's going to be geared toward, at the surface level, helping Americans. This is what you need to understand is while they are political opponents, they all are driving a narrative that they're told to drive because they are all puppets up there, and it's about one thing. Whoever pays that money is who they're going to go with. The lobbyists and things like that, they own these people. They put the money up to get them in the seat, and then they control them. They control what laws are passing and things like that. But even if they pass something that's going to be good for the American people, it's still got to get through the Senate. So if it's good for us, expect it's going to get shot down. It's not going to make it, guys. That's just the way it's going to be for the next couple of years. That's the way it's been pretty much this whole administration. So be aware about it. Now, if we do by some means get the actual House, which is really looking like that, we need to make sure that we have a majority leader up there that is good. We don't need like a McConnell type up there. We just don't. We do not want that. We don't need it. But and that's what it's going to come down to. Those who vote when McConnell comes up for his next vote, vote him out. Vote in somebody who's going to do a good job. Now I don't mean go vote Democrat, but I also don't mean just vote anything that comes up. But it's going to take everyone to vote, because what's going to happen is what people don't realize. They go, okay, no, I'm done with McConnell. I'm going to vote for this guy. You want to watch those polls. And the two top candidates are doing what you want to do. You don't want to split your vote between a candidate who has no chance in hell of getting the position and then take part of the vote from the one who, yeah, he's not the greatest and he sucks. But you definitely don't want to lose that seat over to the Democrats either. So that's something you need to keep in mind. But what we're seeing, what happened in this election, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is that there was multiple parties running. You had Republicans, you had Democrats, and what typically hurt the Republicans was these other parties that were running, these nondescript parties that come in. They call themselves constitutionalists and things like that. Now I am a constitutionalist, but what people need to understand is if you take 4% of the vote and you give it to someone who's not going to get the majority of the vote, then what you've done is you take 4% off a Republican seat, put it into a seat that stands no chance in heck of winning, and you've just handed the election over to a Democrat. And that's what happens. So you have to be smart about voting. You need to be looking at the polls, looking at what's going on, talking to other people, see who they're voting for, be checking the social media platforms and stuff like that, because if you see a guy that's running and he might be saying everything that is wonderful and that this country needs, but he's only got like 200 followers, you don't want to be putting 200 votes in it out of 2,000 or 200,000 when the other millions of votes are going toward this other candidate as well. So you have to really get out and help campaign. But what typically happens is the best candidates, they don't have the larger capital because, one, they're running independent. They're not running with lobbyists. feeding money into their election. And the reason they do that, just as Donald Trump was saying here back when he ran originally and then his last campaign, and he's coming back out saying again, is if you take money from lobbyists, they own you. And that's what people need to understand. So all these politicians that are getting money from lobbyists and stuff need to realize that they're in somebody's pocket. All right, they're going to do whatever it is they're told to do because they like money. That's what it comes down to. You can't serve two masters. You either go and love one and hate the other. That's what we're told, and that is the truth of society. When it comes down to money, the rich, they love one thing more than anything else, and that is money. So be aware of that when it comes to voting time. But again, man, as far as I've been reading and the information on this stuff that's happening with Poland right now, World War III has not started. I know that seems to be the trending thing. World War III just started or whatever. I'm not seeing it, guys. I am not seeing that right now. I'm not seeing where it's being reported by any country right now. What I am seeing is that they're open to international investigation based on Article 4 of the Nato Treaty Act, and that is to gather the heads of state and to gather the allies in to open an international investigation to see if this was an intentional act, if Russia was behind it. And it may not have even been intentional. It might have just been some cross-eyed dude who hit the wrong button at the wrong time and done it. But there will be repercussions for that as well. But what we don't want to do is just take information and just kind of throw it out there. Say, yep, see, we proved our fact. And then turn around 2 days later and hope everyone has forgotten about it. So that's kind of why I take a little bit of time to put stuff out. But again, man, if you're not getting food you need, get it now. I want to touch back on this. We put a video on it earlier. Mississippi River drying up. That's going to have dire consequences coming next year. And here's why. When you start dropping 10 and more feet in depth of water levels, and wintertime is coming up, those shallow ways that they can still kind of navigate, that's going to freeze up. They're not going to be able to navigate that at all here before too long. You're going to have the supply issue starting to get cut even more because they're not going to be able to move those foods. Like we said in other videos, like 70 million metric tons of food that comes up and down that Mississippi River, guys, and even parts of the Ohio River, the southern parts of it are starting to dry up. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that there's actual things like coal slurries, and your steels, your iron ores, and things like that that's used in production in a lot of these southern states and a lot of the northern states as well. It's going to slow way down. They're going to start moving it with semi-trucks. They're going to have to start moving it with trains, which is going to increase the cost of the product. And it's not going to be moving as fast because there's only so much room on those compared to a large barge. So it's going to really slow things down. It's going to affect you all around the board when it comes down to it. So that's why I included that into our prepping community post today. Just be aware of what's happening. And it comes down to, I know we always say, you need to get food now, but the reality of the situation, we need to look at it reality-wise for a moment. If you haven't been prepping, now is a really bad time to start trying to prep with the prices and the food availability being what it is. But it's going to be better to do it now than it will be a month from now or 2 months from now or 3 months from now. You may be thinking, okay, well, I'm going to get that tax return next year, so I'm going to take that money and prep. Well, that tax return, it might take every penny of that just to put normal groceries on your table next year. So that's how bad things are going to get. We were told in prophecy that's what's going to happen. We're seeing it happen with our eyes. We're seeing it happen in our stores. You can see it physically happening, and there's still people out there that are willingly blind and willingly ignorant to it. And that, to me, is just baffling. But that's the world we live in, because it has never been a world where things make sense when you have people arguing about, instead of just coming up and calling them by whatever name they want to go by, maybe their name is George, but they prefer Stan. Who cares? Maybe their name is Stan, but they prefer Caroline. Man, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I call everyone man. I don't care if you're female, a male, whatever, dog, cat, whatever. Say, hey, man, that's just the way I've always talked. That's a southern thing, I guess. But it's not meant in disrespect. But you've never been identified as a part of your identity of this is who I am by pronouns. So that's something people need to understand. But people are hung up in this pronoun generation, and it's just saddening to me, because what does it matter if you identify as a cat? I don't care. I'm not going to get you some kibble? Are you eating just cat food? Are you drinking water out of a bowl other than in your YouTube videos or your TikTok videos or Instagram videos and stuff like that? No, chances you are going down to McDonald's and buying a cheeseburger or wherever it is you're buying your food, and you're just doing it for attention. And that's what it comes down to. Is people want attention, they come up with these really weird, stupid things to get it. But guess what? You play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes, and that's where we're at. And these people are voting for people who are complete morons, and that's the stupid prize we as Americans get, is people that are up there. If they can't give the definition of what a woman is, what's so hard about it? There's biological truth to that. What's so hard about it? There's nothing hard about it. But they don't want to lose candidates. That's what it comes down to. Rather than speaking truth, they go with whatever the common narrative that gets them the most votes. And that's on both sides of those aisles, guys. So be aware of that. So when we vote in the future, we will have another election coming up here in a couple of years. You need to be aware of who is saying what and why are they saying it, because most of these people that are in office, and a lot of them that have taken office again, and some of these new ones coming into office, they don't care about you. You're not going to hear from them. You're not going to see from them until it's time for re-election. And that's the truth of the matter. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day. We're going to hop off here.